The teenager walked toward the bench without being called. Officer Crawford stepped forward, hand moving instinctively toward the boy, but Judge Caprio raised a hand. The bailiff stopped. The boy held out a folded piece of paper. His hand trembled visibly, the paper shaking like a leaf in wind. Caprio took it slowly, unfolded it, and began to read. His face changed. Not shock, not surprise, something deeper. Recognition. The recognition of pain that has been hidden too long. He read the note a second time, then a third. Whatever was written on that paper had stopped everything in the Providence Municipal Court. Timestamp: 10:17 a.m. Minor approaches bench without permission. Hands folded note to presiding judge. Caprio looked at the teenager, then at the woman standing at the defendant's table, then back at the note. The woman was Christine Ballard, well-dressed, composed, the picture of a respectable parent. The boy was her son, and the distance between them, physical, emotional, palpable, suddenly meant everything. No one in that courtroom knew what the paper said, but everyone felt the shift. The air itself seemed to tighten. Tell us where you're watching from in the comments, because what happened next in this courtroom has never stopped being requested. Caprio spoke quietly, his voice gentle in a way that made the silence around it feel sacred. "What's your name, son?" The boy's voice came out barely above a whisper. Ethan Ballard." Caprio looked at Christine. "Your son?" Christine stepped forward, her composure intact but something flickering behind her eyes. "Yes, Your Honor. I apologize for the interruption." "He shouldn't have." "Don't apologize." Caprio's voice hardened slightly. "And don't move." The courtroom tensed. People in the gallery exchanged glances. This was supposed to be a routine traffic case, but no one knew what was on that note. Not yet. 15 minutes earlier, this had been exactly that routine, unremarkable. The kind of case that passes through municipal court 100 times a day. Miss Padilla, the clerk, had called the case in her usual measured tone. Case 2025-TR0443, City of Providence versus Christine Ballard. Charges: failure to stop at red light. Expired vehicle registration. Christine had approached the bench with the practiced ease of someone who had never been truly challenged. Polished, polite. The kind of person who volunteers at church and chairs PTA meetings and makes other parents feel slightly inadequate by comparison. "I apologize, Your Honor," she had said, her voice carrying just the right note of humble contrition. "The light changed faster than I expected, and I've been meaning to renew my registration. It's been a busy month with the children." Caprio had nodded, pleasant and professional. "Busy months happen to everyone. Let's see what we can work out. Standard exchange, standard case. Nothing remarkable. Clerk log. Case 2025-TR0443. Defendant accompanied by minor child, approximately age 15. Minor, seated in gallery, not at defendant's table. Distance noted between parent and child. However, Caprio noticed something most judges wouldn't have seen. In the second row of the gallery, a teenage boy sat alone. He hadn't looked up once since the hearing began. His shoulders were hunched forward, protective, like someone bracing for impact. His hands rested in his lap, and even from the bench, Caprio could see them trembling. The boy's mother stood 20 feet away, but the distance between them felt like miles, like an ocean. Like a wall built from years of things that couldn't be spoken aloud. Mid-hearing, while discussing the fine reduction, Caprio glanced at the gallery again. "Mrs. Ballard, is that your son sitting back there?" Christine's response came quickly. Too quickly. "Yes, Your Honor. Ethan. He had a late start at school today. I'm dropping him off right after this." "What grade is he in?" "Ninth. He's 15. Caprio addressed the boy directly. "Ethan, would you like to come sit closer to the front?" The boy didn't move, didn't answer, didn't even look up. Christine filled the silence. "He's shy, Your Honor. You know how teenagers are." Caprio studied the boy for a moment longer, then nodded. "All right, let's continue." But his eyes kept returning to Ethan. Something wasn't right. 40 years on the bench had taught him to recognize the difference between shyness and fear, between teenage awkwardness and something darker. The boy's hands were trembling, not from cold, Not from boredom. From something that had been building for a long time. That's when Ethan made his decision. In his pocket was a piece of paper he had written the night before, sitting on his bed at 2A. While his mother slept down the hall, he had written it, folded it, unfolded it, almost thrown it away a dozen times. But he had kept it, carried it to the courthouse, waited for the moment when he would be near someone his mother couldn't control. A judge, an authority, someone who might listen. He had never told anyone the truth. He had been too afraid. His mother had made sure of that, made sure he understood what would happen if he talked, what he would lose, who would suffer, but he couldn't do it anymore. Couldn't keep the silence. Couldn't watch his sister's empty bedroom and pretend everything was fine. The note contained 3 sentences. Each one was a grenade. Ethan stood without being called. The movement was sudden enough that several people in the gallery turned to look. Christine's voice sharpened. "Ethan, sit down." He didn't respond. He walked toward the bench, each step deliberate. Each step a choice he couldn't take back. Officer Crawford moved to intercept, but Caprio's raised hand stopped him. "Let him come." Ethan reached the bench. Up close, the trembling was even more visible. His whole body shook with the effort of what he was doing. He held out the folded paper. Caprio took it gently, unfolded it. "Read it." His face changed. He read it again. Note content. First line revealed. "She hurts us when no one is looking." Caprio looked at the boy. The fear in those young eyes was unmistakable now. This wasn't a teenager acting out. This wasn't rebellion or attention-seeking. This was desperation. "Son, is this true?" Ethan nodded. Tears were forming, threatening to spill. Caprio's voice remained calm, but something in it had turned to steel. "Officer Crawford, please escort Mrs. Ballard to a seat in the gallery. She is not to leave this courtroom." Christine's composure cracked. "What? What did he write? Ethan, what did you do?" "Mrs. Ballard." Caprio's voice cut through her rising panic. "Do not speak to your son. Sit down. Now, like this video if you believe every child deserves to be heard." But Caprio had only read the first line. There were 2 more sentences waiting to detonate. Caprio turned to his clerk. "Miss Padilla, clear the next 3 cases from the docket." The clerk looked up, surprised. "Your Honor?" "Clear them. Reassign them to the afternoon session or to Judge Morrison. This takes priority." Miss Padilla nodded and began making calls. Caprio turned back to Ethan, who stood frozen at the bench, tears now streaming silently down his face. "Son, I'm going to read this note out loud. The people in this courtroom need to hear what you've written. Is that okay with you?" Ethan hesitated, then nodded. Caprio held up the paper. His voice was steady, but the weight of what he was about to read pressed down on every word. "She hurts us when no one is looking." He paused, letting the first sentence settle into the silence. "My sister is in foster care because of what she did." Longer pause. The gallery had gone completely still. "Please don't make me go home with her." Note content, fully revealed. 3 sentences. Pencil on lined paper. The handwriting of a 15-year-old who had finally found the courage to speak. Christine was on her feet instantly. "That's ridiculous. He's making things up. Teenagers do this when they don't get their way. He's angry because I took away his phone last week." "Mrs. Ballard." Caprio's voice was quiet, but it stopped her cold. "I told you not to speak." He turned to Ethan. "Your sister. What's her name?" "Lily." Ethan's voice cracked on the name. "She's 9. She's been in foster care since March." "What happened in March?" Ethan's shoulders shook. "She fell. That's what my mom told the doctors. She told everyone Lily fell down the stairs." His voice dropped to a whisper. "But she didn't fall." Hospital record excerpt. Patient Lily Ballard, age 9. Admitted the 14th of March, 2024. Presenting injuries: fractured radius, left arm, 2 bruised ribs, facial contusions. Mechanism of injury as reported by parent: fall downstairs. Medical examiner note: pattern of injuries inconsistent with single fall. Mandatory CPS referral initiated. Christine's voice rose sharply. "This is outrageous. I want an attorney. I'm not saying anything else without legal representation." Caprio looked at her with something that might have been pity if it weren't so close to contempt. "You're not on trial, Mrs. Ballard." "Not yet. But your son is standing in front of me asking for help, and I am going to give it to him. Subscribe if you believe kids should never have to protect adults." But Caprio needed more than a note. He needed confirmation. He addressed his clerk. "Miss Padilla, does the state database show any open CPS cases involving this family?" Miss Padilla's fingers moved across her keyboard. A moment later, her face tightened. "Yes, Your Honor. Case opened March 2024. Caseworker Angela Morrison with DCYF. Investigation ongoing. Minor child Lily Ballard was placed in foster care pending resolution." "And Ethan?" Miss Padilla scrolled further. "Listed as remaining in the home pending investigation completion." Caprio's voice dropped lower. "He's been in that home for 10 months while his sister sits in foster care, and no one thought to check on him?" CPS file excerpt. Investigation opened the 15th of March 2024. Subject: Christine Ballard. Allegations: physical abuse of minor child Lily Ballard. Initial finding: inconclusive. Mother cooperative. No immediate danger found to minor child Ethan Ballard. Case remains open pending further review. Caprio asked for school records. Miss Padilla pulled them up. Lincoln Middle School, 9th grade. The report from the school counselor appeared on screen. School counselor report, dated the 12th of November 2024. Student Ethan Ballard exhibits multiple signs consistent with trauma exposure. Hypervigilance in classroom settings, avoidance of eye contact with authority figures, unexplained anxiety during parent-teacher communications, significant grade decline since September. Student has missed 7 school days in past 2 months, with notes from parents citing illness. Physical observation notes, student frequently wears long sleeves regardless of temperature. Recommended, immediate family evaluation. Report forwarded to DCYF. Caprio's jaw tightened. November 12th. It's January. What happened to this report? Miss Padilla checked the system. Forwarded to DCYF on November 13th. No action logged. No follow-up scheduled. The note contained 3 sentences. Each one had been a cry for help. And the systems that should have heard that cry had failed completely. Caprio looked at Ethan. The boy stood motionless, tears still falling, waiting for whatever came next. "Son, I need to ask you something, and I need you to tell me the truth. Has your mother physically hurt you?" Ethan didn't answer with words. Instead, slowly, he reached down and rolled up his left sleeve. The bruises were unmistakable, yellow and purple, in various stages of healing. The pattern was clear, finger-shaped marks wrapped around his forearm, the kind left by a grip that was meant to hurt. Someone in the gallery gasped. A woman pressed her hand to her mouth. 5 seconds. 7. 10. 12. In that silence, a piece of paper became a lifeline. But Christine Ballard wasn't going to surrender without a fight. She stood without permission, her voice rising with practiced outrage. "He did that to himself. He's been hurting himself for attention for months. This is revenge because I've been trying to discipline him." "Sit down." Caprio's voice was quiet, but it carried the weight of absolute authority. "You can't do this." Christine's composure was crumbling now, her carefully constructed facade cracking under pressure. "This is a traffic court. You don't have jurisdiction over family matters. I have jurisdiction over any emergency I witness in my courtroom, and this is an emergency." He turned to the bailiff. "Officer Crawford, if Mrs. Ballard attempts to leave this courtroom or approach her son in any way, you will detain her immediately." Crawford nodded. "Yes, Your Honor." Caprio turned back to Ethan. "Son, is there another adult in your life you trust? Someone you feel safe with?" Ethan's voice was barely audible. "My aunt, Patricia. She's my mom's sister." "Where is she?" "They don't talk anymore," my mom said. Aunt Patricia was spreading lies about her. That's why we don't see her. CPS file note, dated September 2023. Patricia Weston, maternal aunt, has filed 3 separate complaints regarding welfare of minor children Ethan and Lily Ballard between 2021 to 2023. All complaints investigated and deemed unsubstantiated. Case notes indicate Mother Christine Ballard was cooperative and credible in all interviews. Notation added, Reporter Patricia Weston may have personal custody motivations. Future complaints to be evaluated with this context. Caprio read the note aloud, his voice flat with barely contained anger. 3 complaints. Over 3 years, all deemed unsubstantiated. And now we're here. He picked up his phone. Miss Padilla, I need contact information for Patricia Weston. Immediately. Subscribe if you think courage can come in the quietest forms. What Patricia Weston had to say would break this case wide open. The call connected. Caprio put it on speaker so the courtroom could hear. Hello? The woman's voice was hesitant, confused by the unfamiliar number. Mrs. Weston, this is Judge Frank Caprio calling from Providence Municipal Court. I'm here with your nephew Ethan. He's safe. A sharp intake of breath. Then Patricia Weston's voice broke. Oh, thank God. Oh, thank God. Is he okay? What about Lily? Is she... Lily is still in foster care. But I need to ask you some questions, Mrs. Weston. Have you attempted to report concerns about Christine's treatment of these children? 3 times. Patricia's voice hardened with years of frustrated rage. I called CPS in 2021, 2022, and 2023. Every single time, they said the investigation was inconclusive. Every time, Christine convinced them she was the victim of a jealous sister. But you knew the truth. I saw bruises on Ethan when he was 11 years old. I asked him what happened. He said he fell off his bike. But I saw the fear in his eyes when Christine walked into the room. Children don't look at their mothers like that. Not normal children with normal mothers. Complaint log excerpt. Patricia Weston filed complaints August 2021 outcome. Unsubstantiated. March 2022 outcome. Unsubstantiated. September 2023 outcome. Unsubstantiated. Investigator notes. Reporter appears to have personal conflict with subject. Allegations not supported by physical evidence or child disclosure. Patricia continued, her voice cracking. After Lily's accident, after what Christine did to that baby, I begged them to investigate properly. I told them the injuries didn't match a fall. I told them to look at the pattern. They believed Christine. They always believed Christine. She's so good at making people believe her. Caprio's voice was steady. Mrs. Weston, if I were to place Ethan in emergency temporary custody today, would you be able and willing to take him? The answer came instantly. Yes, absolutely yes. I've been waiting for someone to listen for 4 years. I've been praying for someone to finally see the truth. Someone's listening now. The phone call ended. The courtroom was silent. But the legal process was about to move faster than anyone expected. Caprio addressed the room. This court is temporarily recessed from all traffic matters. I am invoking emergency jurisdiction under Rhode Island Child Protection Statutes, Section 40117, regarding minors in immediate danger. To Miss Padilla, contact Angela Morrison at DCYF immediately. Inform her that I am issuing an emergency protective order for Ethan Ballard, effective immediately. The minor will be placed in temporary custody of Patricia Weston pending a full family court hearing. Miss Padilla was already dialing. Yes, Your Honor? To Christine. Mrs. Ballard, you are not under arrest at this time. However, you are hereby ordered to have no contact with your son or your daughter until further review by family court. No phone calls. No messages. No visits. Violation of this order will result in your immediate arrest. Do you understand? Christine's mask had finally fallen away completely. Her voice came out cold, venomous. You're destroying my family because of a piece of paper? Because of lies from a troubled teenager? Caprio looked at her for a long moment. No, Mrs. Ballard. You destroyed your family. That piece of paper just told the truth. Emergency Protective Order Log. Order issued the 14th of January 2025, 10:47 a.m. Minor Ethan Ballard remanded to temporary custody of Patricia Weston. No contact order issued for Christine Ballard regarding both minor children. Order effective immediately. Full family court hearing scheduled within 72 hours. Caprio turned to Ethan. The boy stood frozen, looking like he couldn't quite believe what was happening. Like he had thrown a message in a bottle into the ocean and somehow, impossibly, someone had found it. Ethan, your aunt is on her way to get you. You are not going home with your mother today. Do you understand what's happening? Ethan nodded, but his eyes were filled with something beyond relief. What about Lily? I'm going to make sure you see your sister. I give you my word. This isn't over, it's just beginning. There will be more hearings, more questions, more difficult days, but you did something very brave today. Caprio held up the folded note. This piece of paper may have saved your life, and your sister's. 3 sentences. That's all it took. Ethan's voice was small. I was scared to write it. I didn't know if anyone would read it. That's what makes it brave. Being scared and doing it anyway, that's the definition of courage. Comment brave if you think this teen saved his own life. But Christine Ballard's story wasn't over. It was just beginning. 6 weeks after the hearing, the Rhode Island Department of Children, Youth, and Families completed its full investigation. The evidence was overwhelming. Medical records, school reports, photographs of injuries, statements from teachers, neighbors, the pediatrician who had noticed patterns but never connected the dots, the aunt's years of documented concerns, and at the center of it all, a 15-year-old boy who had finally found the courage to write 3 sentences on a piece of paper. Christine Ballard was arrested on 2 counts of child abuse and 1 count of filing false statements to state investigators. Her bail was set at $50,000. Her trial was pending. Investigation summary excerpt. Pattern of physical abuse confirmed, spanning minimum 4 years. Evidence includes documented injuries to both minor children, witness statements regarding defendant's behavior, and victim disclosures consistent with sustained domestic abuse. Recommendation: full criminal prosecution. Ethan moved in with Aunt Patricia the day of the hearing. The first week was hard. He barely spoke. He sat in corners of rooms, watching doorways. He flinched at raised voices, even happy ones. He couldn't sleep without the light on. Patricia didn't push. She gave him space. She made him breakfast every morning and asked nothing in return except that he try to eat. Week 2. He started talking at dinner. Just a few words, comments about the food, questions about the dog. Week 3. He made eye contact when he spoke. Week 4. He laughed at something on television. Patricia was in the kitchen and heard it, a real laugh, the kind that comes from somewhere genuine. She stood at the counter and cried quietly so he wouldn't see. 2 months after the hearing, Lily was released from foster care and placed with Patricia as well. Sibling reunification report. Lily Ballard, age 9, transferred to custody of Patricia Weston. The 8th of March 2025. Initial assessment indicates strong sibling bond between Lily and Ethan Ballard. Both minors enrolled in trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy. Prognosis: guardedly optimistic. The reunion happened in Patricia's living room on a Saturday afternoon. Lily came through the door holding her caseworker's hand. She was small for her age, with the watchful eyes of a child who had learned too young to be careful. Ethan was standing in the hallway. He hadn't moved in 20 minutes, just standing there, waiting. When Lily saw him, she let go of the caseworker's hand and ran. He caught her, held her, knelt down so they were the same height, and wrapped his arms around her like he was never going to let go. Neither of them spoke. They didn't need to. 3 months later, Ethan testified at a state legislative hearing. The room was full of lawmakers, advocates, social workers, and reporters. He sat at a table with a microphone, a glass of water, and the same piece of paper he had handed to Judge Caprio. His voice was steady. He had practiced. I didn't know how to ask for help out loud. I'd been told my whole life that talking would make things worse, that no one would believe me, that I'd lose my sister forever if I said anything. He paused. But a note I could do. I could write down the truth without having to say it, without having to look at anyone, without having to be brave in front of people. If there had been a way for me to tell a judge sooner, if there had been some system where kids could write things down and someone would actually read it, I would have done it years ago. Lily wouldn't have gotten hurt. I wouldn't have those scars. Policy recommendation excerpt. Proposed safe voice protocol. Any minor present in any Rhode Island courtroom may request a private written or verbal audience with the presiding judge at any time. protocol includes mandatory training for all court personnel on recognizing signs of child abuse and required cross-referencing with CPS databases for all cases involving children. The legislators voted unanimously to implement the protocol. It became law 4 months later. Judge Caprio kept the original note in his desk drawer. 3 sentences. Folded paper. Pencil marks smudged from a nervous hand. He showed it to every new clerk who joined his courtroom staff. This is why we pay attention. This is why we watch the people who aren't speaking. Sometimes the ones who need help the most can't say it out loud. They need us to notice. They need us to create space for them to tell us in whatever way they can. Share this with someone who needs to know that speaking up matters. 6 months after the hearing, a letter arrived at the courthouse. No return address, but Caprio recognized the handwriting from the note. Dear Judge Caprio, I didn't know if you would read my note that day. I almost didn't give it to you. I was standing in that courtroom, and I had the paper in my pocket, and I kept thinking about what my mom would do if she found out. But then you looked at me. You actually saw me. And something in the way you looked made me think maybe you would listen. You stopped everything. You read my note. You believed me. That's all I needed, someone to believe me. Lily and I live with Aunt Patricia now. We have our own rooms. Lily's room has butterflies on the walls, because that's her favorite thing. My room has a door that locks from the inside, but I don't need to lock it anymore. I'm starting to feel like a regular kid. I still have bad dreams sometimes. I still get scared when someone raises their voice. But it's getting better. The therapist says it will keep getting better. Thank you for reading the note. Thank you for stopping everything. Thank you for being the person who finally listened. Ethan. Caprio framed the letter and hung it on his wall, right next to the original note. Beneath both, he wrote in his careful handwriting, the bravest words are often the quietest ones. Some things can't be said out loud. Some truths are too heavy to carry in spoken words. They need to be written down, folded up, handed over with trembling hands to someone who might listen. Ethan Ballard walked into a courtroom expecting nothing. He walked out with a future. 3 sentences on a piece of paper changed everything. Not because the sentences were special, because someone read them, someone believed them, someone stopped everything and said, "This matters. You matter. I hear you." That's what justice looks like sometimes. Not a verdict, not a sentence. Just a moment when someone in power chooses to listen to someone without any. Ethan is 17 now. He volunteers at a youth crisis center, talking to kids who don't know how to ask for help. He tells them about the note. He tells them that silence feels safe, but it's a trap. He tells them that somewhere, there's a person who will listen. And sometimes, all you have to do is find a piece of paper. The note is still in Caprio's desk. 3 sentences that save 2 lives. They're faded now, the pencil marks softened by time. But the words are still there, still true. Still proof that courage can fit on a single page. Dramatization for storytelling and education, not legal advice or reporting.